Thank you for joining us. The webinar will begin shortly. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A section and we'll try to answer your questions in the order we receive them. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to today's episode of Alchemizing HR Navigating What's Next. Our topic, get game ready for 2024, unleash your full potential. For those of you who are new to our community of learning, welcome. We're so happy to have you. And for those of you who are returning, it's wonderful to spend another Thursday afternoon with you. If we've not met before, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Clarissa Peterson. I'm a former Chief HR and Ethics Officer who's had the privilege of working on every continent on the planet, with the exception of Antarctica. Never say never. I may get there one day. I'm also the proud holder of the GPHR, the SPHR, and the leading professional in ethics and compliance certifications, and a former Chief HR and Ethics Officer. I'm also a past chair of the board of directors of HRCI. Today, I'm president and CEO of Ohana HR. Our firm helps leaders at all levels recognize their superpowers, gain insights into areas needing improvement so that they can continue to make their best and highest impact to the organizations they serve. Just a couple of housekeeping items. First of all, we know you get up early and stay up late to learn with us here at HRCI, and for that, we are so grateful. So please go ahead and put your locations in the chat so I can share that with our speaker a little later on. And also, it's very important to us to make sure that Alchemizing HR is accessible to all. So we have a closed captioning service. If that is not a service that you require, just click on the Show Captions button for additional instruction. So now on to our esteemed leader, our esteemed guest who has been with us before, and we're so honored that he's joining us again. Christopher Steer, Esquire, is the founder and CEO of Steer LLC. His organizational consulting firm is a dynamic group of operators, leaders, and advisors who help build better organizations. Chris and his team help people produce higher level of performance through leader, manager, and team development, as well as organizational excellence initiatives. Chris is a seasoned entrepreneur, business advisor, and attorney with extensive experience developing leaders and developing better organizations across multiple industries. Chris founded and partnered in several successful organizations while also serving as a trusted advisor and counselor to hundreds of organizations and leaders. As a former Division I college athlete and longtime youth sports coach, Chris has a long-standing passion for effective leadership and high performance. Chris earned his undergraduate degree from Johns Hopkins University and his Juris Doctor degree from the University of Maryland School of Law. He serves as the board chair for Next One Up, as well as other foundations and charitable organizations. So without further ado, please allow me to introduce today's amazing speaker, Chris Steer. Chris, take it away.
Thank you so much, Clarissa. I appreciate you. It is a pleasure to work with you again. You are a true professional, and I'm just so grateful for you. I'm also grateful to HRCI and HRSI to be able to share with this wonderful group of leaders and professionals. Yet again, I was with you all about 12 months ago, and here we are once again at the end of 2023. I want to give a quick shout out to some of our attendees that are joining from Ghana, from Afghanistan, from Canada, from Greece, from India, and across the US and innumerable countries beyond the ones I referenced. But we're just so grateful for you all. I'm just thrilled to be back, quite frankly. You all give me the energy and the inspiration to do what I do. It's a wonderful thing to be among heroes. And why I say that is because you share our philosophy that people drive performance. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So we hope you really enjoy our time together today. We hope that you pick something up that is actionable for you. In some cases, it may just be affirmation of things that you know and tools and insight that you've experienced before, but maybe it'll be new. And we hope that there's something tangible that is worth it for you. At the end of the day, we are here to create value. So let's get after it. Very briefly, as Clarissa referenced, we build better leaders in organizations, and we focus on organizational excellence and leader and manager development. But I think at the end of the day, what I'm really most interested in is our game plan today. Yes, game plan. And so this is an activity. This is an action. And so I want you to be engaged. I want you to be a critical thinker, an active listener. Because at the end of the day, I am simply honored to be a facilitator today of critical thinking, your critical thinking. That's what our aim is today. So you see our game plan. We're going to be focusing on a few things. Reflection, which is the learning aspect, right? You take reflection and you put it into action. What are the learnings that we can pull through from this year into next year? Prepare for the year ahead and understand some strategies that might actually put some fuel in the tank, if you will, for 2024 and the goals that you are seeking to achieve, both for yourself, for your teams, and for your organizations. And in addition, just cultivating that mindset for high performance. We have advisors to our business that are in the world of neuroscience and psychology, and we just really are more attuned than ever to the power of brain science and mindset and mindfulness and how we attack any particular upcoming year. And so this is one of those instances, friends, where the calendar is our friend. Let's prepare for a great year. And I would just ask you this, just take a posture of learning for the next hour or so. Put yourself in the posture of understanding that you don't know it all. And so, it's impossible to learn something if you think you already know it. So we just ask that you take that posture. We will do our very best to create value for you. We will do our very best to use our learning pillars and the learning pillars of thousands of other leaders to give you things that you can take with you and really learn. So look, 2023 has been a crucible of sorts for us all. So let's emerge from that crucible in 2024 with even more learning and reflection. Okay. So speaking of reflection, this is where we're going to get the mind in a really good place and think about a couple things. Here's why reflection is so important. And I just bring this quote up for you just to dwell on for a moment from General Mattis, who was a former Secretary of Defense in the United States, which is, if I was to sum up the single biggest problem of senior leadership in the information age, it's a lack of reflection. Well, you can count me among those leaders that don't do enough reflection. And with reflection comes the critical thinking. It comes with the good ideas. It comes with the space to be able to craft solutions and tap into our subconscious. So here is a first question for you. And this will be interactive insofar as I'm going to continue to ask questions throughout our time together today. And I want you to write them down. In some cases, I'll say put them in chat. But this is an engaged adult learning theory process where we want you to be an active listener and engager in our process. So dwell on this question. How did you develop and grow as a leader in 2023? How did you develop and grow as a leader in 2023? And, do me a favor, either if you're compelled to put some of your thinking to that question, your answer to that question in chat, please do so. If you want to just simply write it down in your journal or your notebook or on your phone, please do so. But this is the first activity, friends, where we are critically thinking together about how did you develop and grow as a leader, okay? So just take a second and contemplate that question for us right now. How did you develop and grow as a leader in 2023? And we thank you and all of you that are putting some really helpful comments into the chat function, because you never know where the inspiration is going to come from. It might come from within as you're critically thinking. It might come from me as I maybe jar something in your mind or your memory that brings something to the forefront that you can use and action. make it actionable, but it might also come from a colleague who's on the webinar with us today. So I hope you found that question to be helpful. Here's the next one. What was the most critical or useful thing you learned as a leader? You can see from over my right shoulder, permanent beta is our logo. It's our trademark for Steer LLC. And that is, it's absolutely foundational to the work that we do and foundational to high performance as a leader, because you're a learner, not a knower. Okay, so think about this question for yourself. What was the most critical or useful thing you learned as a leader in 2023, right? Once again, want to put that in chat, please do so. If you want to write that down, please do so and memorialize that so that you can stay engaged and as an active thinker in this process. Thank you to those of you who are sharing within chat. We hope your insight and your learnings may be the things that spawn action for others. So thank you for that. All right. Reflection propels us forward. Critical thinking propels us forward into 2024. So, a game plan. What should be some of the elements of the game plan? Look, you know so much more about your organization than I could ever fathom, okay? But I do have the perspective and some of the good data and research around designing a game plan. Here are some things that might help you create a game plan for your 2024, okay? And maybe this is something that you can share with your respective teams or organization-wide. How do you want, so here's a few questions to contemplate and ponder. And we think these are pretty accessible for you to use within your organizations. But here's a 3-list cohort, obviously not an exhaustive list. First question, how do you want to feel at the end of the year? In other words, what is the word for you for 2024? Okay. Try that one on. Think about that for yourself, but also think about how you might use that for your own organization or your team. Okay. What are your top 3 priorities personally and professionally? I use both of those because invariably your own growth and development as a leader corresponds and correlates to the organization's success and growth. And then what is most important for you, your people, your team, your organization? So relevant, because if anything, if we've learned anything coming out of the pandemic era and the last several years, it's that we need to continuously and relentlessly prioritize what's most important. So a couple things. We hope that you found these personally relevant to ponder, and maybe you're going to put that in a parking lot for later and deal with these questions later. But we also hope you see value for them for these questions in terms of your team. Okay, so designing the game plan. So let's get into the game plan itself. Elements of individual high performance, leadership, high performance dynamics, taken from decades of research, decades of empirical data, in some cases, millennia of human wisdom, and certainly from the hard sciences of neuroscience and psychology. We want to be able to identify these areas that will make us better leaders and therefore develop higher and fuel higher levels of performance in 2024. So principles and foundations, the essentials, and optimal habits, okay? And so we're going to go through an exercise here, which I hope you enjoy, which is some really quick reflection, if you will, about some of the principles and foundations for leadership high performance. Let's learn what some of those are, okay? For example, purpose. And here's the fun quiz that you can answer for yourself and then take with you moving forward. But in terms of purpose, I have a belief, philosophy, and/or a clear sense of purpose that shapes my life decisions. How would you rate yourself, 1 through 5? Okay, we're going to go through these pretty quickly, but completely, so that you can actually answer these for yourself and think about how you might leverage these for leaders in your organization. Second, for principles and foundations of leadership high performance. Vision. I have a clear sense of where I'm going as a leader and where I'm taking my organization with a plan to get there. How would you rate yourself with that? 1 through 5, 5 being off the charts fantastic, 1 being needs some attention. Values. Okay, values. I hold myself accountable to a personal set of values or virtues. 1 to 5. Give yourself a rating. Plan, right? These were, in many respects, seem pretty familiar bedrocks and foundations for you. We hope that they do. I have the ability to architect simple, clear, and aligned strategic plans to achieve objectives. 1 to 5. Rate yourself. Growth mindset. Now, I could geek out on this for quite a bit, but in terms of growth mindset, I approach challenges and changes with a growth mindset, seeing them as an opportunity to adapt, learn, and grow. 1 through 5. A very important high performance dynamic, never more important than today. Response. Listen carefully. We're going to get into a couple of these in a moment, with more in-depth analysis, but response. I maintain my power by consciously choosing my response, judgments, and perceptions to external events that I can't control. Very important these days as a leader to manifest the response. Equanimity, my favorite word. Okay. I maintain a calm and composed mind in the face of challenges or chaos. How are you doing with your equanimity? 1 through 5. How are we doing organizationally? And then positive relational energy. What do I mean? I create positive, supportive, and energizing interactions with others and promote positive psychology. 1 to 5. How do you show up there? All right. So we're going to focus on a couple of these here with a little bit more in-depth analysis. All right. Back to growth mindset. And here's that characterizing sentence that I used previously. I approach challenges and changes with a growth mindset, seeing them as an opportunity to adapt and learn and grow. So I'm a data guy. I love good data, but I also love the application of data with real tools that we can use to be better. Okay. And I am certain that many of you on this webinar have tools and tips and concepts and philosophies that you have used as well. But pretty compelling data point there you have on the right side of your screen. But what's the toolkit? What are some of those things that are accessible for cultivating growth mindset? Well, one of those things is actually embracing the hard things, seeking the hard things out. Leaders are meant to do hard things or else you wouldn't be a leader. And that's the beautiful part about the growth mindset. We can actually develop these neural pathways and new habits as a result of seeking out the hard things. Self-reflection that I referenced before is a positive tool to use. Celebrating and acknowledging taking on hard things or challenges. Not just you, but those on your team, those in your organizations, the embrace of that growth mindset. And then this is a critical one for your own equanimity, which I referenced before, but identify what you can control, what you can influence, and maybe most important, what you can let go. Okay. So that was a deeper dive into growth mindset. Hopefully something really jumped out to you and landed as something you can take with you. Equanimity. I maintain a calm and composed mind in the face of challenges or uncertainties. So here's some interesting data points or text you see on the right-hand side from Harvard in terms of the impact of deep breathing on equanimity, in terms of how this can help you in the very moment. I personally am a huge box breathing fan. It works for me. It really resets my central nervous system. Pretty remarkable what an amazing biohack that is in a very short amount of time. But here's some tools. Again, these may be very familiar to you. In some cases, they may be new. And in some cases, they simply affirm some of your research that you understand. Moving your body, literally moving your body, literally getting up from your desk, doing a standing meeting, walking around your floor, getting outside, moving your body, clearly a way to embrace, get closer to that equanimity. Journaling, breath work, obviously something that's been well worn as an approach is taking quick breaks, acknowledging how you feel, not compartmentalizing it and pretending it doesn't exist. That doesn't serve you or your organization. And then back to choosing your response. So hopefully, as we go into some of these deep dives across these high performance dynamics, you'll see, excuse me, how relevant these can be for you. So let's go to the next piece, which is essential skills. Essential skills to drive high performance: people management, self-improvement, reflection, feedback, critical thinking, results orientation, emotional intelligence, communication, and accountability. Okay. Essential skills for these. Now, I know as you look at these, you're saying, oh, yeah, I've got that. Yeah, I probably do a little bit of work here. Yeah, I'd love to be better in this particular area. But it's critically important that you continue to identify and build the essential skills you need to continue to move forward and be better, drive your organization to higher levels of performance. Let me give you some quick definitions here, some quick characterizing language, okay? People management. I effectively deal with people and obsess about taking care of my best people, right? Where do you fall in that 1 through 5, right? Self-improvement. I'm a learner, not a knower. This is the very heart of Steer LLC. I find joy in learning and seeking opportunities for self-improvement and personal growth. Where do you land? Reflection. I regularly make space for reflection to gain deeper insights into my experiences and decisions. What needs to change for you there? Or what you need to keep doing because it's working very well, right? Critical thinking. I regularly think critically to generate new ideas and solutions. I'm not wed to existing paradigms. I think critically for new solutions. Results orientation, I think that speaks for itself in terms of you set goals, monitor progress, and take actions that lead to tangible, quantifiable elements. Okay. Emotional intelligence has never been more relevant in our world as leaders and managers. And so are you skilled at understanding and managing your own emotions as well as those of others? Communication. Let me give you, I think, a very accessible communication characterizing language here. I communicate clearly, decisively, and consistently on what is important, what is most important, and which results in people understanding and taking action. That's the other part of communication that people often miss. And then the last one, accountability. I consistently take responsibility for my actions, decisions, and outcomes. Where do you land on that? So let's jump into a couple of these, a little bit of a deeper dive. People management, okay? I effectively deal with people and obsess about taking care of my best people, right? And so this goes back to the very origins of organizational development and the very early stages of leadership analysis and science. And so this was a challenge for John D. Rockefeller 100 years ago and remains one now. There's nothing more important than our ability to effectively deal with people. So what are some of the toolkits, the items in our toolkit that we can leverage in terms of taking care of our best people? Well, clearly it's making them feel valued and appreciated. Do you have some rigor around that? Do we have tools and processes in place to do that very thing? Fostering a culture of care, trust, and belonging, helping them see the potential for growth. This is a big one, and it's never come up more prominently than in the last several years because we're learning that growth trajectory, development, skill development and training has never been more important than right now. And then supporting the work-life integration, mindfulness about how the new work world is challenging some of our people. So hopefully there is something within those points that you can take back with you. And then emotional intelligence. Clearly, there's just been a wellspring of data and research around emotional intelligence, and that is such a strength. It's such a foundation for trust, which is a hallmark of high performing organizations. So, I put some of these up here, which comes from our own data, some other organizations that have done a wonderful job in investigating and really deploying this thought process around emotional intelligence around the world. So we hope that you find some real value in some of these items on this toolkit for you to leverage and maybe see the opportunities for better. Okay, let's move into the third realm of leadership, high performance dynamics, optimal habits. And guess what, friends? This is my favorite topic. It's you. It's about you, your habits, okay? In terms of being a leader, time and priority management, quality relationships, morning routines, sleep, physical discipline, intake, nutrition, hobbies and experiences, stress management, okay? And so let me give some quick context here before we dive into a couple of these. Time management and prioritization. What do we mean? I allocate my time efficiently and relentlessly prioritize what's most important. Do you do that? That is a habit. That is reprogramming our neural pathways. Quality relationships. Do you have quality relationships inside and outside of your professional realm? That speaks to high performance in your life. Morning routines to start the day out strong and in a positive way. Sleep. This is a very contentious one among leaders, I know, but we should be developing better habits around 7 hours plus of good sleep. Physical discipline, that my own mental, emotional, and physical wellness is driven by the physical discipline. Am I getting out into these good routines? Intake speaks directly to nutrition. We've got to be able to take care of ourselves before we can pour into others. Hobbies and experiences. This is important. Do you have hobbies and experiences, asynchronous activities outside of your work, outside of your expertise, they bring you joy, that bring you critical thinking, that bring you peace? Okay, these are critically important to high performance in yourself and something that we certainly recommend across the organization. And then, of course, stress management. Do you have practices and tools that you can use to help you handle changes and challenges? So let's talk about a couple of these. Time and priority management. You see here on the left-hand side, the toolkit for managing some of your times and priorities. Obviously, a few of these fall into the no-brainer category, but maybe some of these are you're seeing for the first time and you say, you know what, I can take advantage of that. I can actually do a better job of time blocking my calendar. Or I can do a better job of getting out in front of my planning schedule. Because what we know to be true from the neuroscience, as you see on the right-hand side of this slide, when we go back to back to back to back, boy, our brain does not look very good in terms of our energy and our stress levels. You don't want to be on the left-hand side of that diagram. You want to be on the right-hand side. And so making sure to be really mindful about that is critically important as we move ahead. Okay. And then the second one here is morning routines. I'm not going to just dwell here very long, other than to really implore of you to take advantage of easy things like journaling. It's a window into the subconscious. It's a window into critical thinking. There are ways to set that up. Not everybody does it in the morning. I happen to do it at the end of my day, but it's a great way to start creating those morning routine habits that will serve you well, your physical, mental, emotional well-being, and your work performance well during the course of the day. Okay, so organizational high performance dynamics, foundations, player engagement, and organizational culture. All right. So when I think about foundations, I want you to think about it this way, as the central nervous system. Okay. So as you reflect on driving higher performance into 2024, how are we doing within our organization from a mission, vision, and values perspective? Do we have a clear, aligned, and accessible plan? Do we have a plan to implement that over the course of our organization? Do people know how their roles connect to and move those goals and those priorities forward? Do we have the rhythms and the standard operating procedures in place so that we can free ourselves up to focus on the things that are most important? Do we measure what matters? This sounds obvious, It is not, right? Because sometimes we are so wed to previous behaviors and biases that we're measuring things that really aren't moving the needle for us anymore. Technology and information, I think that goes without saying in this world of digital transformation, that we need to make sure we are aware of the tools that make us better. Oh, by the way, financial performance, it's a thing. We need to continue to keep that very focused on how the work that we do, our plan, our priorities, our rhythms, our metrics are fueling financial performance so that we can execute on our mission and our vision. Continuous improvement and future thinking. This is so critical about rethinking, about challenging existing paradigms and biases. We don't want to let our existing paradigms get in the way of future progress. Okay. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about foundations, our central nervous system. Okay. Let's focus on a couple of these. Mission, vision, values. All right. Although those just rolled off my tongue very quickly, these are absolutely the most important foundation, right? It's a retention and an engagement tool as much as it is creating the North Star and the most important priorities, okay? This is the core of everything. And I know I'm speaking to the choir here, preaching to the choir here, but you see that McKinsey quote, and you can, whatever your point of reference is, friends, whether it's, McKinsey, LinkedIn, HBR. I mean, we all have our go-to sources of data and research, but make sure that you're getting a wide swath of that research that affirms this data of how important it is to drive a clear vision, mission, and values. Strategic plan implementation. It's interesting. You may be asking, well, why did we go right to implementation instead of the plan? Well, because I think most people go directly to the plan and forget about implementation, which is how do we make sure that our plan is actually communicated clearly across the organization? That in my role, I know how I can move the needle and to what priority my work is aligned to. It engages me. It gives me more of a path and a plan, and it gives me accountability. And remember about accountability. That word's been a little bit misused over the last several years. Accountability is a caring word. If I didn't care about you, I wouldn't try to keep you accountable. And so, because accountability serves the mission, accountability serves your own growth and development, accountability serves the team. So, accountability is care. And then we always recommend that you use some tool that helps you keep the learning in place. It's not a static plan. It's a living and breathing plan that helps us to continue to grow and find trends and have important conversations about where we're winning or where we're learning. So we always recommend the tracking of the plan, critical piece. Player engagement. Okay, this is the second piece of the organizational high performance dynamics. High performing leaders, this is foundational. High performing managers. As many of you know, Gallup wrote a book about 5 years ago called It's the Manager. Some great data in there about the fact that operationally day to day, those individuals that move the needle most during any given day are the managers. And it's oftentimes the reason why we have turnover issues is in management. Attracting and retaining top talent. Never been more of a hot button than today across the globe in terms of how we attract and retain top talent. What's our approach here? What is our strategy? What is our plan? Not just to attract, but to retain, develop, and provide the pathways. Performance management, this may elicit groans from all of us at different times, but an effective performance management approach can be life-giving, can be inspiring, can be creating those forums for the conversations that matter most. And so the feedback and the advice and the counsel and the mentorship, these all wrap into that. Recognition and appreciation, interestingly enough, could be the most accessible high performance dynamic, but the one that we probably employ the least in certain organizations. Please remember to build programs around recognition and appreciation for great work. Role clarity and career pathways are almost the lifeblood of the healthy organization these days. When we attract talent, can we cast a vision for them as to not only how we're going to develop their skills, but we can show them a path into growth, into opportunity within our organization. Well-being and support, physical, emotional, mental, everything. Overall well-being and support for our teams, because it's just a very, very different work world today. So let's focus on a couple of these. Performance management and feedback. This Gallup data point is pretty compelling, and you can read that there. It's the credibility, the trust, the authenticity, the empathy that comes through having these kinds of conversations with that feedback. So here's some of the toolkit. Establish a rhythm and stick to it. That sounds pretty basic, but it's the hardest thing to do, right? It's the human component. It's the variability of the human component. But we need to be very clear and clear in our cadence and committed to our cadence as to how we have our feedback, our advice, our perspectives, our mentorship. Expectation setting. Everybody on this call needs to be a master of expectation setting. So much of the conversations are about what is versus what could be. And that gap just gets closer and closer when there are clear expectation setting. And just make sure that we are open and honest about the individual career paths. So hopefully one of those things really lands with you, or maybe it's a shaking head like, yep, I that's really working for me. We hope that that's true. Recognition and appreciation. I just referenced this. I mean, look, we are going, just the simple act of kindness, the simple act of connecting great work with our strategic values, our vision, the things that are most important, serving our clients or customers or board or whatever that might be. But recognition and acknowledgement, and the precise acknowledgement, not just the great job, but the precision that comes with appreciating people for something they did in their work that really connects and lands with them. It's incredibly powerful. So we hope you take advantage of that. And then the third being the organizational culture aspect, okay? So what are the dynamics here of high performance organizationally that we can take to fuel 2024? Continuous learning and development at all levels of the organization. How does that look? How can we be even better in terms of our permanent beta, are always developing and learning, so that we are fueling retention, fueling engagement, all the while. Continuous learning and development. Teamwork and collaboration. These are not throwaway words. These are foundational. And when you think about the intersection of neuroscience and organizational science and timeless wisdom and just the empirical data that we all bring to the table every day, we know in our mind's eye when we've been a part of an organization where the collaboration is off the charts. And that just is, it's just an incredible accelerator of growth when we can have that. So are we focused on making sure that we are taking that very, very seriously? Transparent and effective communication. The why. I always want people to know in the organizations that we work with, it's here's why we're doing it, right? You may disagree, but I want you to be aligned with it. And I want you to push back on it, but here's why we're doing it. Because I want, in many respects, I want you to be able to say it back to me so that we are of the same mind on what our goals may be, but critically important. Okay, what's next? Psychological safety. Team members feel safe to express themselves, take risks, voice their opinions without fear of negative consequences, right? This became a term of art probably 10 years or so ago. I think the ultimate origin of the word was in a Google study, but it's taken on a life of its own, and for good reason. Psychological safety is a hallmark of high-performing teams and certainly high-performing organizations. So how are you doing with that? Accountability, we referenced this before. Empowerment and autonomy. We're seeing a lot of this language used in organizations across industry these days. And it's, you know, as people are working through the organization, developing management skills and leadership skills, are we still over their shoulder? Are we still lacking trust? and their ability to execute against the work, do they have the empowerment and autonomy to be successful? So I think it's a good question to continue to ask ourselves. Adaptability and resilience. I've just been reminded of this just in the last couple of weeks with the passing of Charlie Munger, the longtime vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, who I think has seen quite a few management and leadership teams over his day before he passed. But I think one of the things that is a hallmark of Berkshire Hathaway and their portfolio clients or portfolio companies is the sustainable adaptability, the adaptive survival. We need to have that growth mindset, but also the resilience that comes with going through challenges and change, and our ability to adapt to change, because the universe has changed. And then diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think to some of the amazing work that's being done with the organizational certifications through HRCI about DE&I, about our shared experiences, about the level of expertise that's out there to make sure that you are not allowing existing biases or paradigms to affect your ability to create the most inclusive and diverse organizations so that the best ideas win. And that's what we know to be true when we have a truly inclusive and diverse organization. So very critically important. So let's focus on a couple of these as we've been doing. The continuous learning and development. Hello, like this is the most no-brainer stat that we have up here, which is if I feel as a member of your team that I have the ability to continue to learn and grow and develop, I'm going to be more engaged, right? And let's not forget what engagement means. It's my willingness to give my best at work. And so if you're pouring into me, I'm certainly going to be more apt to continue to be more engaged in the work that I do. So, I have some suggested approaches. These aren't just magic words. It takes rigor and a good plan, but these are things that we absolutely would encourage you to at least take advantage of, and maybe rethinking your approaches within that. And then teamwork and collaboration. Look, trust, clarity, and structure. I mean, these are all elements of high performance in teams, and we just want you to take advantage of the ideas. Like, ask the hard questions, which are questions like this. Identify a team within your organization and ask yourself this question: does that team operate effectively as a team? Question one. Question two, are they able to collaborate and team with other departments outside of their team? Question two. Question three, does that team identify with the ultimate goals and objectives of the organization and really move them forward? So ask the questions when you're evaluating the teamwork and collaboration within your organization. And so I would say this as I wrap up our time together here before we get into some other interesting and wonderful conversation with Clarissa and ultimately some Q&A. I want to just mention this. Sitting in and learning and collaborating together, that's a wonderful thing to do. But it's also about the action. It's also what I call the next right move. What is your next right move coming out of our time together today? What is, and here's the question for you right here. What is one thing, maybe there's several, but what is one thing from today you want to put into action into 2024? This is the next right move aspect of this. And I want you to be honest about it and set the intention by writing it down. If you want to put it in chat, put it in chat. But I want you to write it down because I want you to be able to do this. To be accountable to yourself for these high performance dynamics, to be accountable to yourself in the things that you want to be better on as a leader. Be honest with yourself as to where the organization needs to improve in these leadership and organizational high performance dynamics so that you can be just an influence of change and an influence of good for your organization. And so answer this question. What is your next right move? What is one thing from today that you want to put into action into 2024? And we thank those of you that are putting that into the chat function. Critically important as we learn from one another. We really appreciate that. And then obviously here's who we are. I have an unbelievable team of human beings that believe in what we care about within HRCI, HRSI, and all of you, which is people drive performance. So we are so grateful for all of you, for your engagement in chat, for your active listening and engagement, and how you're writing things down. So we thank you so very much. And I see my friend Clarissa.
Chris, thank you so much for this amazing presentation. I just feel so uplifted. I just feel so poured into everything you shared with us. And expanding on your presentation of suggestions about how we can unleash our full potential, I just want to challenge everyone on the call, because now's the time to think about how you can also help to unleash your organization's potential in 2024. While HRCI supports your individual certification and learning goals in the new year, and we'll continue to do that next year and beyond, HRCI now has an affiliate organization, the HR Standards Institute, or HRSI, that provides organizational certifications. An HRSI organizational certification empowers leaders to align human resources activities around organizational goals and objectives by using published consensus-based global human resources standards focused on continual improvement to reach business outcomes for people, for processes, and for profits. An HRSI certification, we certify organizations against global standards in the areas of diversity and inclusion, human capital reporting, and today I have the pleasure to officially announce the newest certification on workplace wellness. According to the American Institute of Stress, organizations and economies around the world lose over $1 trillion due to absenteeism, low productivity, and healthcare issues attributed to workplace stress. Recognizing and prioritizing workplace wellness as the primary driver to minimizing stress in the workforce is the first step, since these factors are within control of the organization and its leadership. Achieving the HRSI Workplace Wellness Certification signals a commitment to current and prospective talent that your organization offers a healthy and supportive work environment. Benefits of this certification are realized by the employees and the organization, including employee satisfaction and retention, productivity and performance, as well as attracting top talent. To learn more about this exciting new certification, workplace wellness, or any of our other organizational certifications that HRSI has to offer, please scan the QR code on the screen or contact HRSI at info@hrsi.org. Chris, I am so excited about these new certifications as a way to differentiate organizations who are committed in these areas. As I said earlier, we also, Chris, have HR professionals who get up early and stay up late to learn with us here at HRCI. And for that, we are so grateful. We have our friends from all over the US, but from all over the world as well. So let me recognize some of our colleagues from abroad. We have HR professionals today, Chris, from the Netherlands, Ghana, Afghanistan, Canada, Greece, India, Nigeria, the Bahamas, Dominica, Germany, the Dominican Republic, and Jamaica. If I did not mention your country, please go ahead and put it in the chat so we can make sure. Puerto Rico just popped up. Thank you so much. So we can make sure we recognize you. Chris, there was so much information here and we have so many great questions. So let's go ahead and dive in. But I do want to ask you a question about something you said earlier. What is box breathing? Did you say box breathing or did I hear that wrong?
You heard it right, my friend. And it's one of those things, Clarissa, which I continue to be fascinated by because of the quickness with which it helps me. And what box breathing is, and I don't purport to be the originator of the idea in any way, shape, or form, but what it means is taking a deep breath, drawing in through your nose, a deep breath, emerging from your diaphragm, but taking a deep breath through your nose, for 6, 7 seconds, holding it for 6 or 7 seconds, exhaling for 6 or 7 seconds, and holding for 6 or 7 seconds. And that completes the box, Clarissa. And I
Ah,
am not kidding you when I know this is used by individuals in high stress, life or death situations. And so I think that it's so accessible for us as leaders, Clarissa, that
yeah.
I have personally gained so much value from it. And those leaders that I have the good fortune to work with have also adopted it and found some great relief from it as well.
Thank you so much. That's something we could do between those back-to-back meetings because it's
That's
only going to
right.
take a few seconds, right? Oh, how amazing. Thank you for that.
That's exactly
So
right.
our first question is about emotional intelligence, which is a lot of what you talked about today. You talked about many tactics under the tenets of emotional intelligence. This person says, how can one manage the triggers that affect our emotions?
Yeah. Well, I'll go back to one of those 4 learning pillars, Clarissa, which is like this timeless wisdom that leaders have been aggregating over the years. Being able to deal with the triggers is partially about having the channeling the right response. And we use it this way, maintaining your power. So regardless of what the stimulus is, which we can't control, what we
Hmm.
can control 100% is our response. And that's maintaining your power. And so it's the ability to measure and moderate the external emotion, but being master of your own. And so it's the going into that particularly challenging conversation, maybe Clarissa, or maybe even something that's unexpected, knowing that you could never have controlled that anyway, but how I step into my response is all up to me. And my
Yes,
growth, my peace, my learning is going to come from that. That's how we coach our leaders in terms of helping with that trigger.
yes. This person says management often seems overworked and underappreciated. How
Hmm.
can I do a better job at supporting them?
Wow, that's a beautiful and wonderful question. And there's a couple things that immediately come to mind. Number one, it's we have this human condition, Clarissa, where oftentimes we think people know what we're thinking in our head. Okay, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And so I have developed because of that very question. So thank you to whomever asked it. Um, it triggered in me the not waiting to do something when it comes to recognizing and acknowledging great work by our manager. Okay. And so not only is it being very precise, as I mentioned in my presentation, about why we're giving the praise or acknowledgement, but it's ensuring that we know the bigger question, which is, and that matters because
Mm,
it supports our mission. It supports this team. So thank you for helping us move the needle. So it's an intention part, and then it's a frequency part. Don't make it something that we only save for our annual review cycle.
yes. And I'm going to add an acknowledgement that it's not easy to be in a management role. It's full of paradox.
Mm,
You're sometimes asked to do things that you may not personally believe, but it's your job. It's not illegal, immoral, or unethical. You just got to do it. So I
mm.
think the acknowledgement and having people be seen, plus what you said, would be powerful, a powerful cocktail.
Well, that's, this is why I love partnering with you, Clarissa, because you always make my answer better. And so that's exactly right. And there continues to be a steady scholarship around middle management's relevance and importance in
Yes.
operational excellence. I mean,
Hmm.
we really can't deny the data anymore. So then it
Hmm.
becomes to the great question that was asked, which is, well, how can I be better there? Because it
Yes.
clearly is a lever.
Yes. Absolutely. This person says, how do you encourage empowerment and autonomy with remote employees? We've come across employees who've taken advantage of the freedom that comes with remote work, which has caused leadership to be concerned about some of the risks associated with remote work. We trust our employees, but how can leadership avoid punishing the good employees because of the experience of those who have abused that trust in the past?
Wow, that is one of the great challenges of the modern workforce
Mm-hmm,
is
mm-hmm,
exactly that question. And
mm-hmm,
there's some layers to it,
mm-hmm.
which would probably be a good topic for an entire alchemizing HR.
I think it
Um,
would. You got to come back and do it.
I think we should do it. Count me in. But
All right.
I would say this, the first order of business there to that well-crafted question is a universal expectation of the role clarity,
Mm-hmm,
role clarity, right?
mm-hmm.
Because and that starts at that starts at the hiring level. It
Yes.
starts at our interview questions. It
Mm-hmm,
starts at our panel interviews
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
about the expectations so that, and now fortunately we do have several years under our belt of our hybrid work environments, so we can try to get out in front of them. Okay,
Yes.
so that's the first part. The second part of the question, I think, is really ripe for a broader discussion, because what we found ourselves in is we have an existing workforce that we're dealing with this right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to create new expectation for something that
Yes.
we didn't really understand very well to begin with,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so there has to be this consistent rigor around the expectation for what it means to be in remote work,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, we live in the world today where we can have the hybrid environment,
Yes.
but
Yes.
we need to be, and this is hard, and this is, I don't want to run away from it, because this is as hard as it gets in the work that we all do on this webinar, is finding that right performance level for our hybrid workforce.
Yes. Yes. And Chris, you just illustrated the connectivity between all these pieces. And I would say we're never going back to the way it was.
Yeah.
It is new, it is different, and it's going to take the collective wisdom of thought leaders like you and all of us on this call to figure it out. So at that point, I'm going to land it here.
Yep.
Please make your final comment and we'll move forward. So, Chris,
I thank you, Carissa. I'm grateful to everyone. As I started out this conversation today, I was simply a facilitator of critical thinking, and everything that you do day to day, we are all linked arm in arm in trying to ensure that performance is always driven through people. So thank you for everyone's effort, collective intelligence, collective effort, collective encouragement, for that. So thank you, Clarissa.
it was a pleasure as usual. And thank you for reminding us that we can take our power back. That is well within our control. And sometimes we forget. So, on behalf of all my friends and colleagues from all over the world, Chris, we are so grateful to you. We appreciate you. And thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Carissa. Thank you, everyone.
So, we're going to wait and have a change in slides. Just want to let everyone know while we're waiting for that, this is going to be our last Alchemizing HR for 2023. We will be taking a break for the holidays and we will be reconnecting. I think it's the 18th of January, but that'll be coming up on our slides in a few moments. So my technical folks are in the background about to advance. There we go. Anyway, we're going to take some time off, as it says. We'll be back together on January 18th. We hope you will take this time to reflect, take a moment to think about all of the learning that you've experienced this year, but think about how you can apply it to yourself and to your own life. Because as we've learned this year, we have hard jobs, people depend on us, but we have to take care of ourselves so we can show up and do the work that we've all been called to do. And if you have not joined our LinkedIn group or signed up for our HRCI newsletter, please do so. You'll see the information here on screen. Go to hrci.org for additional information. And last but not least, let's give you your ID, recertification activity ID for today, 650511, 650511. We'll leave this up on the screen. And yes, this wonderful webinar will be online soon, so you can go back and take another look at it and learn again from Chris's wonderful wisdom and expertise. So, as we say, keep the human in human resources. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the wonderful holiday seasons wherever you are, however you celebrate. And thank you for being a member of our community of learning. We'll see you next year. Take care. See you, Chris. Thanks for
Thank you,
everything.
Clarissa. Take care,
Bye,
my friend.
everybody.
Bye-bye.